listicle going through some of the most insane, unsolved crimes that have ever happened. So, no more wasting time, let's get into them. We begin with the body on Somerton Beach. In December 1948, a body was found on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. The body was a man who was dressed impeccably in a suit with polished shoes, and his head was slumped against a wall. Authorities thought the cause of death was heart failure, or more likely poisoning, but no trace of poison was found in the autopsy. There wasn't a wallet or any type of identification on the man, and all the tags from his clothing were cut out. The fingerprints that the authorities took of him were also unidentifiable. They even put a photo of the body in the newspapers, and still no one could identify who the man was. 4 months later, after the body had been found, detectives found a hidden pocket that was sewn on the inside of his trousers. Inside the pocket was a rolled up piece of paper from a rare book called the Rubaiyat. The piece of paper had the words Taman Shoot on it, which means it has ended. After months of looking for the exact book, authorities decided to bury the Somerton man without identification. Although a cast was taken of the bust and he was embalmed to preserve him. 8 months later, a man walked into the police station. He claimed that just after the body was found, he found a copy of the Rubaiyat, can't say that word, in the back of his car that he kept parked near Somerton Beach. He thought nothing of it until he read about the search in a newspaper article. Sure enough, the book had a part of the final page that was torn, and it matched the piece of paper that was found in the Somerton man's trousers. Inside the book were a phone number and some sort of strange code. The phone number led the authorities to a woman named Jessica Thompson who lived nearby. During her interview, she was very evasive and even claimed she was going to faint when she saw the bust of the Somerton man, but denied knowing him. However, she said she did sell the book to a man named Alfred Boxall. Unfortunately, Alfred Boxall was still very much alive at the time and still had the copy of the Rubaiyat that Jessica had sold him. The code that was found ended up being even more unhelpful, and as of today, it is still yet to be cracked. To this day, the man on Somerton Beach has still yet to be identified. Next up, we have the Black Dahlia murder, which goes as follows. On January 15th, 1947, the remains of 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, were found on the block of 3800 S. Norton Avenue in Los Angeles. The body was cut in half and so pale and drained of blood that the woman who found the body mistook it for a mannequin at first. The body was cut with surgical precision, leaving no trauma to internal organs or bones. Her face was also cut from her mouth to ears, leaving an eerie, permanent smile. There was no blood on the ground, making it believed that the body was moved after she had been murdered. 9 days after she was discovered, an envelope was sent to the examiner addressed by using individual cut and pasted letters from magazines and newspapers. It read, "The Los Angeles Examiner and other Los Angeles papers. Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow." As promised, the envelope contained Short's social security card, birth certificate, photographs, names written on pieces of paper, and an address book with pages missing and the name Mark Hansen embossed on the cover. Gasoline was used to clean the objects, removing the fingerprints. On March 14th, a suicide note scrawled in pencil on a bit of paper was first seen by the beach caretaker, who reported the discovery to the lifeguard captain, John Dillon. Dillon immediately notified the West Los Angeles police station. The clothes included a coat and trousers of blue herringbone tweed, a brown and white shirt, white jockey shorts, tan socks, and tan shoes, about size 8. However, the clothes gave no clue about the identity of the owner. Although many suspects were named, no authorities were able to identify the Black Dahlia's killer, and the mystery has gone unsolved for 70 years. Next up, we have the Wall Street bombing of 1920. During the lunch rush on Wall Street on a September day in 1920, a nondescript man driving a cart pressed an old horse forward in front of the USA office across from the J.P. Morgan building. He stopped his cart, got down, and immediately disappeared into the crowd. Minutes later, the cart exploded into a hail of metal fragments, immediately killing more than 30 people and injuring 300. The aftermath was horrific, and the death toll rose as the day wore on and more victims succumbed to their injuries. In the beginning, it wasn't obvious that the explosion was an intentional act of terrorism. It was viewed as simply an accident. Maintenance crews cleaned up the damage overnight, plus throwing away any physical evidence would be crucial to identifying the perpetrator. By the next morning, Wall Street was back in business. Conspiracy theories were abundant, but the New York Police and Fire Departments, the FBI, the Bureau of Investigation, and the US Secret Service were on the job to find out the truth. Each lead was actively pursued, and the Bureau interviewed hundreds of people who had been around that area before, during, and after the attack. But they collected very little information. The few recollections of the driver and wagon were vague and useless. The NYPD was able to reconstruct the bomb and its fuse mechanism, but there was much debate about the nature of the explosive. However, the most promising lead had come actually before the explosion. A mailman had found four crudely spelled and printed flyers in the Wall Street area from a group calling itself the American Anarchist Fighters that demanded the release of political prisoners. The letters seem similar to ones used the previous year in two bombing campaigns, which were led by Italian anarchists. The Bureau investigated up and down the East Coast to trace the printing of these flyers, but they were unsuccessful. Based on bomb attacks over the previous decade, the Bureau initially suspected followers of the Italian anarchist Luigi Galliani had committed the crime, but the case couldn't be proved, and Galliani had already fled the country. Over the next 3 years, hot leads turned cold and promising trails turned into dead ends. In the end, the bombers were not identified. Next one, we have the disturbing death of Eliza Lam. I feel like I've covered this one before, but it's really bizarre, so we're gonna do it again. On the 26th of Jan 2013, 21-year-old Canadian tourist Eliza Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. When she never checked out on February 1st, nor had any contact with her parents, the LA Police Department was contacted. On February 19th, 18 days from the last time she was seen, Lam's body was found floating and naked in a water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Her body was found due to hotel guests complaining about the hotel's water pressure. she was seen was on surveillance footage on the hotel's elevator. The footage showed Lam acting strange and peculiar, almost like she was hiding. She also moved her hands in strange ways, and it looked like she was talking to someone who was out of the security camera's view. I will put the footage in the corner now, but warning, it is really creepy. But I guess so is this story, but it would help you to visualise the stuff going on. After her body and the surveillance footage were found, it was suggested she was on some sort of hallucinogenic drug. Even though Lam took 4 different medications for her bipolar disorder, toxicology studies reported that there were no traces of any drugs or alcohol that could have contributed to her death. There was also a theory that she was murdered and died as a result of drowning, but the autopsy report showed no evidence of trauma. To this day, no one knows how she was able to access the roof or climb into the water tank and shut the 20-pound lid by herself. So you can attribute the weird behaviour to her not taking her medication, but it is so weird how she ended up in the water tanker, and I'm pretty sure I read, it's borderline impossible for, a member, just like a normal person to open it. You need, specialist equipment to get inside these water tankers. I've always thought it was like a cover-up from the staff of the Cecile Hotel. That's what I sort of get the feeling it probably is, that if they were getting complaints about her, they just tried to silence her, basically. Next up, we have the Zodiac Killer, which goes as follows. In the late 1960s and early 70s, a serial killer known as the Zodiac Killer terrorized Northern California. There were at least 5 victims, but later on the murderer would claim he killed at least 37 people in total. On December 20th, 1968, on Lake Herman Road in Vallejo, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Johnson were shot and killed while sitting in a parked car in a gravel parking area. By the time police arrived, Betty was found dead, but David was still alive. Unfortunately, he would die on the way to hospital. This was the first murder that the Zodiac Killer conducted and got away with. The Zodiac's next crime would happen on July 4th, 1969, in Blue Rock Springs Park, only a few minutes away from the previous crime. The Zodiac Killer approached a parked car with a flashlight and murdered 22-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 19-year-old Michael Magoo. Both were still alive when found, but only Magoo would survive. He was able to describe the shooter as a young white male, 26 to 30 years old. A stocky build, 200 pounds or larger, about 5'8", with light brown curly hair and a large face. Within an hour, the police received a phone call from someone who claimed to be the shooter, and the shooter in the Lake Herman Road murders. Moving forward to August 1st, 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Herald all received a handwritten letter from someone who claimed to be the shooter. The letters revealed specific details about the killings to prove that the writer was indeed the murderer. All the letters were signed with a circle and a cross through it, the symbol that would eventually be known as the mark of the Zodiac Killer. Also included in the letter were 3 different codes that the Zodiac Killer demanded be printed in newspapers, or else he would kill again. The Zodiac Killer said that the cracked codes would reveal his identity. A few days later, on August 4th, another letter was received that started with the phrase, "This is the Zodiac speaking," marking the first time the killer referred to himself as the Zodiac. 4 days later again, on August 8th, the code was cracked because you will slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for the afterlife. Goodness me. After claiming 3 more lives and causing nationwide terror, the Zodiac Killer wrote his final letter on January 29, 1974, concluding the letter with a new score: ME equals 37, SFPD equals 0. The true identity of the killer has never been found. Next up, we have the case of John Benet Ramsey. On December 26, 1996, in Boulder, Colorado, where Michael Scott moved to, Patsy Ramsey claimed to have discovered a ransom note for her 6-year-old daughter John Benet Ramsey on the back staircase inside the Ramsey home. This prompted her to call the police at 5:52 a.m. to report John Benet missing. The only people inside the house were John Ramsey, her father, Patsy, her mother, and her brother Burke. Oddly enough, John Benet's body was found inside the home in the utility room in the basement less than 8 hours later. The body was found by John, and duct tape was found across her mouth and a smooth cord around her neck. When police arrived, it was suspected that the crime scene was heavily compromised due to multiple people arriving at the scene. The police had also claimed that they had not searched the house after Patsy's initial call, because there was no reason to believe that John Benet was in the house. At the time of her death, John Benet was known as a child beauty queen superstar, having won at least 5 high-end child beauty competitions. Her death was ultimately ruled a homicide. The autopsy stated that John Benet's official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation, associated with cranial cerebral trauma. Due to John Benet's beauty queen popularity and her mother being a former beauty queen, the case caused nationwide and media interest. Today, the crime is still unsolved and remains an open investigation with the Boulder Police Department. Interesting. And we've got time for one more. The Unsolved Hinterkaifeck murders. So on the evening of March 31st, 1922, on Hinterkaifeck farm in Bavaria, Germany, 6 residents were murdered with a pickaxe. The victims included husband and wife, Andreas and Casilia Gruber, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, Victoria's children, Casilia and Joseph, and the family's maid, Mary Baumgartner. 2-year-old Joseph was killed in his crib and Maria was killed in her bed, while the rest of the family was then murdered in the barn and stacked on top of each other. Lovely stuff this is for an ASMR video. Upon the discovery, authorities concluded that the murderer actually lived on the farm for 6 days after they committed the crime. That's just creepy. Even after the family had died, cattle were still being fed, meals were being eaten in the kitchen. Neighbours reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney, and the family dog was tied up to a post when the mailman came on Saturday. The bodies were discovered the next day. What makes this crime even more chilling was that Maria was actually hired the same day she was killed, replacing the previous maid who had quit 6 months earlier due to the house being haunted. She reported to the family hearing footsteps in the attic and voices. Around the time the previous maid had quit, the Gruber family had also begun to hear voices from the attic. Andreas had also noticed a set of house keys had gone missing, an unfamiliar newspaper in the house that he had never seen before, plus scratches on the family's tool shed like someone had tried to pick the lock. He had also reported seeing a pair of unfamiliar footsteps leading from the woods towards the back entrance of the family's home. Despite repeated repeated arrests, no murder has ever been found, and the files were closed in 1955, and the house was demolished. I mean, instantly from the sound of that, I think whoever killed them, as creepy as it is, had been living in the house for a long time, and they were living in the attic. And that would explain the voices, and it's likely there were probably two of them, but that would explain the voices and the footsteps. Yeah, like I said, really, really nice, relaxing, family-friendly content to help you relax and get some sleep. It's like with the scary Reddit videos, like, realistically, they probably shouldn't be relaxing, but yeah, somehow they are. But yeah, definitely some interesting ones there, and there are plenty more, I'm sure. So if you would like to see a part 2 to this video, then please do let me know in the comments down below. Realistically, I'm probably going to do a part 2 anyway, because I find it super interesting. So let me know any recommendations for other true crime videos you'd like to see, whether it be broad ones like this or super specific stories as well. But that is going to do it for